Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly 30-minute workshop. My name is Brian McKay, a systems engineer here at Verify. I'll be your host for today's session. We're also joined by Mr. Jim Schultens, fellow systems engineer. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing great. How are you, Brian?
Pretty good, pretty good. Good to hear. By the way, everybody, Jim just took a nice little vacation and sent him some pics of him driving his Jeep through a rainstorm to get to a waterfall. Sounds like quite the adventure.
Yeah, especially without the top or doors. It was not fun.
Gotta remember to take the
As you
top
say
doors
that,
with
I
you.
hear thunder in the background now at my house. So
I totally understand. I mean, the only time I've ever done that is looking for treasure in the Uncharted game, so I can only imagine.
isn't it
All
just?
right, well, and on top of that, everybody, he also makes his own beer. But today he's going to show us Verify's upcoming multi-database management feature. This will be a new feature in our version 13 release, which is coming very soon. Please note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours. So if you have to leave early or just want to be able to review it again at your own pace, check the webinars page on our website for all past and upcoming sessions. So let's move on here. First, we'll start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do here. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Jim's going to guide us through the multi-database management feature. We'll pause for a quick Q&A. During the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right of the screen. And after the Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around to see if you've won. And if you can't hang around, don't worry, your account manager will reach out to you as well. All right, so let's move on to the quick overview of what we do here. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading CDR reporting and call analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets. We also provide UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, and we now offer Cisco Cube CDR reports and dashboards. If you have questions about any of our features, or if you have any interest in evaluating our Cube offering, please contact us at support@verify.com or simply reach out to your account manager. One more thing before we kick this off. For an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building help, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Verify SE to do the heavy lifting for you, giving you a stress-free and hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing in terms of service for our Enhanced Consulting Service, or ECS. All right, with that, let's get into the wild. Jim's revving up the Jeep, and I'm going to make you the presenter and turn it over to you.
Thank you all for attending this week's workshop. As Brian mentioned, today we're going to talk about a new feature available in version 13 coming out soon. It's called multi-database support. First of all, I think we need to define what that means in Verify. So prior to this version that's coming out, the version 13, each cluster could only support one database. And if you had long retention period or large call volumes, that database could get quite large. That would cause need for additional resources being required on the server, including additional disk space and or memory. Now, adding memory or increasing disk space is not it's a fairly easy process. It's not ideal and not something you want to do on a regular. Could also cause reports to take longer to run or time out, or worse yet, run into some out of memory conditions. So that said, prior to this feature, we did have a way to do this. It was kind of clunky, involved a lot of manual steps, and involved required you to create multiple clusters. Because, like I said, each cluster could only handle one database, so you'd have to uh, create multiple clusters. As you can see in one of my labs here, I've got CUCM 2021 is named one, and CUCM 2022 is the other one. So technically, I would have data for 2021 here. 2022 data would be in this cluster. Each one would have its own database, and to run reports, I would have to kind of switch between databases. If I wanted to report for December of 2021 to January 2022, there would technically be two reports. So we've come up with this multi-database support feature. allows you to break it up into multiple databases under one cluster. Just want to go into our CUCM clusters here. And I'm just going to go into the CDR. First of all, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we have changed this page around a little bit. Get into each one later here. But I've set up one of my clusters with the feature already enabled and working. You can see here, I've got the one cluster, workshop cluster with multiple databases. All of these can be queried and it's seamless. You don't have to switch between databases. You don't have to tell it what database you're looking for. Each one has its own date range. And when you run a report, the query will go out and look, okay, I've got data for this time frame here. I'm going to use this database. And my query also covers this time frame, so I'm going to use this database. So that makes it seamless reportability and for dashboard building. So what we're going to do, this one's already created. I'm going to go through my other cluster, which workshop test cluster only has the one database server or one database. It's primary for this cluster. I do want to point out that we do have an excellent knowledge base article with these steps. Also has a short video tutorial that covers these steps, but then it's got step-by-step here. As with all our knowledge base articles, you can find them by logging into verify.com, going to support, click on knowledge base, and that'll give you all of the knowledge base articles. Quick search under database will bring up a couple different articles. Keep in mind, this that we're talking about is manually created. This is a manual process you'll have to do depending on your database sizes. You could do it weekly, could do it monthly, quarterly, yearly, but it would be a manual process. If you are interested in more hands-off, automatic database archiving, this article, and that would be next week's workshop. We'll be covering that. All right. So let's take a look at the steps needed. I'm going to go back to my lab here and we'll go through each of these, like I said, CDR clusters. Once I get into the CDR clusters, again, this can be used for Cube as well. Using this lab here, so I'm just going to focus on the CUCM. And we're going to go through each one of these. As I said before, this page has changed a little bit. It used to be able to scroll through all these settings. We did break it down into 4 different sections. The manage section includes, shows your clusters. If I go into that, that's mainly your CUCM information, host and login, time zone setting, and rate tables. CDR processing. This section is where the information about processing related tasks are, like where the data is coming from, or what folder it's looking in to get that data to process, how often you're processing those files. That is enabled, and it has your SQL Server information. I want to point out this feature can use both MS SQL and MySQL. Could be interchangeable depending on your environment. So as you can see, my primary database is called GymCDR Archive 3. This is the cluster that does have the multiple databases already configured. I've got my purge settings set in here, and also could do data monitoring for low or no CDR. All right, we're going to go over to our sync tab. The sync tab is used for gathering CUCM related information. The CDR does not contain all of the fields. We have queries call manager to get some of the CUCM related fields like username, login ID, department name, for instance. That can be done on a live basis. Most systems we do query call manager live when reports are run. This sync is mainly used for larger systems that don't want to constantly query the database. Sync will create a file that it can query that on a nightly basis. So if you come in here and see none on these, don't panic. It's not that you're not getting CDR. It's just that you don't have the automatic sync figured in. It's just doing a live query of the data of the call manager to get that information. Right? CDR databases section. This is where it will show if you do have multiple databases set up. Most of you, since this is a new feature, will not. I go into my workshop test cluster. This is what you guys will see when you're first setting this up. Just one database, be primary, and it should show online. One thing I do want to mention, going back to my workshop cluster, I've got my primary database and 3 archive databases. As soon as this loads up, it's going to give my available data for each one, and it does have the ability to take database offline. For instance, my original database was Jim CDR. Archives are after that, July 3rd through the 13th. Then this one started collecting data from 14th to 24th, and then so on. If I wanted to take this one offline, put it in what we call cold storage, I can do that. However, if I go to run a report on that data, quick change my time range to a specific date that I know that in that database, which was July, I believe it was July 3rd. Let's go to 6th. Few results. I should come back with nothing because that database is offline. I do go back into clusters, CDR databases tab. See it was showing offline. I'll put it online and run that same report as soon as it's up, just to make sure it stays online. Go. Back to my same query. That date range that I know there's data in the that particular database for. 5 view results. Spinning, which means it's gathering data, which is a good thing. So that means I do have data for that database. And I'm able to query it as long as it is online. All right. So let's go back into the cluster and let's go through the process of adding an archive database to my workshop test cluster. Joys of doing this live. It looks like refresh my whole. Oh. So I'm going to start out in the CDR processing section here, and I'm going to edit my test cluster. And this is my primary database now. So what I want to do is make a new primary database so the new data will be going into that primary database. And then this one will become an older archive cluster. We do recommend naming these. I'm picking archive as a name, but the number is important. You don't have to, but it helps keep track of things. So as I'm going through, if I'm doing this every month, I would just increase this number every time. So then I'll have my original database, which was Jim's cluster. My next one is archive 1. Next one after that will be archive 2, 3, and 4, and so on. So we do recommend doing that. You don't need to use the word archive. You can do going to do the primary database as archive. I'm going to save this. It's going to go out to that database and say, I don't have a database not with that name. Create it. I'm going to go create that. It's going to go build that database for me. And then it is ready. I'm going to activate that database because it's going to be my new primary database. As soon as that loads up, we will go back and access. Now this is going to be my new database. I should have no available data because I'm just starting fresh. I don't have live data being fed into my tab here. But the next step, what I want to do is go to the CDR databases. So we need to go to this cluster, my new cluster, which is the test one, and it will show my primary database as the archive1. It show it online with no available data. But as you notice, the GIMS cluster database is not here. What I have to do is associate that database with the cluster. What this here is for, so on that, it's going to choose my database. I've only got my local MySQL, and then choose the database, which was GIMS cluster. Save that guy, and then that adds that as my archive database, and it will have the available date range that was had my data for, which I believe it loads up again. I could turn off that, make it offline, which would not allow me to query. But if I leave it online, I can query data from July 3rd through July 26th. And then this one, if it was July 26th that I did this, it would start recording data. All right, let's go to the other cluster. Say you already have this set up. Workshop cluster, kind of go through the same settings, but as I said, if you keep these numbered numerical, what I'd have to do is go to 4, save that guy, create the database. As soon as that gets created, I'm going to go ahead and activate it. So it's going to be my primary database. And I'll have to go to my other tab, the database tab, and associate the previous database with that cluster. Very important. Otherwise, you won't have access to run reports on that guy, previous database. As you're going through this, each one, previous one will get associated with that cluster. All right. Here, I should have my new primary database as 4, archive 4. Notice I don't have 3, but again, what we're going to do is associate that database. 3. So then the date range will take effect on the new primary database for today, and I'll start recording my new calls on that primary, and these will be my archive. Again, the reporting is all seamless. As you can see, we've got that one extra archive now in the primary. To demonstrate the reporting, what I'm going to do is go here. I'm going to keep my workshop cluster because that's where I've got data I want to look at. I do have a report that I created for this. Outbound calls, pretty basic report. This is in the report workshop or more server database, so I'm going to keep it basic. I'm just looking for outbound calls from 4-digit extension. I'm going to group it by date here. Run this report for a time frame where I know it crosses multiple databases. I'm going to go back into my instance, and I'm going to pick July 11th because that is my daughter's birthday and I can remember it easily. Just going to go July 11th for the sake of time. Just do 1 week's worth of data. I know that data crosses multiple databases. Results here. Go and check them. As you can see, I've got call counts for July 11th through 18th. Back to my CUCM clusters. Databases, so my July 11th here shortly. So my July 11th through 13th would be in this database, and the rest of it would be in this database. So I am able to query. I don't have to do any manual. It knows where to find that. Same situation with dashboards and widgets. I can create a widget, which I did already for inbound calls. This one's kind of just the opposite search set. Original call party for time frame is current and previous week. That does span a couple databases, so as this loads, we will see data for each day. Again, I didn't have to switch anything. The system already knows which database to query for that. All right. I think that's all I have, Brian.
All right, very good, very informative. Thanks for me and for our customers, I'm sure. So we do have some questions. John had a couple to start with. First one was, will this include CCX?
No, CCX doesn't really store any information in a local database. That's all queried live from the UCCX, so we don't really need to store that information and query multiple.
Okay. And
for CUCM and Cube.
Okay, got it. And his next question, does the retention policy, for example, keeping records for 6 months, not apply to these archive databases?
Correct. It's just for the live database. So you got to be a little bit careful there with this. The automatic is a little bit less forgiving, and I think Dre's got that webinar. He'll go over that next week.
Right.
So I hope he will. But just make sure if you're keeping, if you're going to do this archiving every year, you want to keep the data in that primary database.
Okay. At least. Sounds good. Next up, Laura had a question. With the multi-database feature, the purge settings are set per database, correct? Yeah. Okay. So I think you just answered that. So we would not be using purge setting in the archive thing. Yeah. Once it goes to archive, it's just a static database. Nothing gets purged out. Nothing gets added to it.
Yeah. If you want to make it a cold database, you can just take it offline. It'll still be there, but you'll be able to query it. If you do, say it's 2 years old and you want to get data once in a while from that, you could always turn it online, get the data, and then turn it back offline.
Gotcha. Okay. And she also had a question about what the recommended database date ranges are. For example, monthly versus quarterly versus yearly.
It's hard to do that, but it's really based on your database size. I mean, we could probably give you some recommendations based on your particular situation, but it really depends on what your current database and number of records are.
Okay. She was also wondering if there's any way to create a database based on a specific date range. That's probably more of a question for Dre, but you might know that one.
Well, if you've got a specific, you can't go back and change any current database. You can't go and create out of an archive. You can't say, this date to this date.
Right.
If you want to, create a database for July 1st through the 14th, and then from the 14th through the, mid-August or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, again, this is all manual with this process. So it's something.
Okay, but you can't select like a specific date range as opposed to doing like previous quarter.
Yeah, as soon as you make a new primary, it's going to start from that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay, so I think that answers all the questions. If I didn't fully answer somebody's question, or if anybody else has a question, please type it in the Q&A panel now. We'll give you just a few more seconds to do that. Otherwise, I think we pretty much covered everything. All right, I'm not seeing anything new coming in. So let me go ahead and
Should be able
make
to grab it
myself
there.
presenter. Yeah, make myself presenter again. And drag this out of the way. All right, let me share my screen. There we go. And you guys should be seeing it now. Is it showing up for you, Jim?
No, it's not.
Okay, hold on a second. Sorry, let me do this again. Share, screen one, share. Okay, there we go. I saw the panel pop this time. Okay, excellent. All right, so thanks for your questions, everybody. We always appreciate your participation. Let's see. So let me go ahead, and I think we're at the part where we're going to award our $50 Amazon gift card. And that is going to go to, congratulations, Scott Garitano. You are the winner of the Amazon gift card this week, and your account manager should be reaching out to you with that information within the next 24 hours. All right, one more quick mention. We have our new social platform, Planet Verify. It's a great place to kind of get involved with the Verify community. A good source of knowledge on on a variety of verified topics, and a good way to connect with both Verify staff and fellow customers alike. And it's not all work. If you need a good cocktail recipe or some small talk, drop by our Cantina section. And we also have our Planet podcast with Vic, Matt, and Jeff. I just remembered I was a guest on that one time. Good times. So go ahead and check that out as well. Thanks again to everyone who attended today. I just want to remind you of our next upcoming workshop, Verify's Auto Database Archiving. This will be the continuation of today's topic and kind of taking things to the next level with setting up automated schedules. So that will give you the freedom to just kind of set things up the way you want it and have it take it from there without you having to manually do this every month or 3 months or whatever. So please be sure to register for that if you haven't already. That's going to be with Vic and Dre. Let's take you through all that. Thanks again, everyone. We appreciate your time as always. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks all.